We've all heard strange tales of monsters, devils, possessions, and dark things of our world, but nothing might prepare you for a similar journey of the Pennsylvania Dutch community, in particular the Amish and Mennonite. Sometimes the rules of binding of the old world are just as bizarre and certainly just as intriguing as a tale. Did you know within the beliefs of the Amish and Mennonite of the Dutch Old World, there's a hidden instruction guide full of rituals and guides to follow when addressing? It is as real and unsettling as the changes of the season for those unique souls we pass along the roads in horse and buggies, with the clip-clopping alongside our gas-powered automobiles. Tonight, we will pass them once again on the road, this time in the shadows, this time with an open mind and an ear to better understand the paranormal of the Pennsylvania Old Dutch world. Join us, if you will, as we plow through the fields that separates the world's deep into the mysterious old world beliefs.
From a child born into this world, we are taught what to believe. Closed-minded we become, fearful to be deceived. Still we desire to know what lies beyond that locked door. The art of the storyteller, conjuring tales of legend and lore. History hidden, lost knowledge, things forgotten and the unknown. These are the things that direct us and will set the tone. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Now, before we get started,
I've said this before. There's been a few episodes where, Eric and I, we kick around ideas, and when last we met, Missouri Monster Sightings was the one that I was like, I want to do that. We haven't done something close to home in a while. And then I reached out to Eric last weekend to say, hey, did you come up with your topic yet? And sometimes he sends me an idea of a topic, and I think, well, if we were a bigger, more popular podcast, this would be one that we just couldn't get away with because it might be. Again, we don't mean this to be offensive. This is done with all due respect to the tradition.
Absolutely.
But it's sort of similar as like when we covered voodoo, and we were respectful to voodoo culture, things like that. So again, want to say that we mean this with all due respect. We're just looking at like the folklore, the history. In my case, the creatures that have been sighted in the region. So.
And before we get started, this evening, I want to also preface in saying, in doing research for this episode, I was reminded over and over again how the Amish and Mennonites do not really speak a lot about these things. That's why it was so intriguing for me. It's not so much really that it's feared as it is respected, is the word I would use. But in their beliefs, to speak about it, especially openly, can give it, whatever that is, power and invite it in. It's kind of similar, at least to me in my mind, of the indigenous tribes of Native Americans who, for example, don't like to talk about skinwalkers.
Yeah.
I think it's very closely related when you kind of strip it down to that. But if you know where to look and you really dig, some of these beliefs and stories are really quite interesting, with some different sets of eyes on things and a different way of thinking that perhaps, at least I felt, was worth sharing.
Well, if I can be tasteless for a moment, even if it is offensive, I don't think they're going to be listening.
They probably won't be listening. That's a good point. Good point, Bill. Well, the first story I have is called The Blind Boy's Curse. Now, the Amish believe if they speak of the devil, that you will hear the flap of his wings above your home. To acknowledge him, to speak about the devil, you're giving him power and inviting him into your life. So for most accounts, speaking on many paranormal things are strictly forbidden or taboo openly, but sometimes there's stories told, and they do leak out into society. This is one such account of a Ben and Mary Fisher, a young married Pennsylvania Dutch couple, as we find them settling in for the night. Mary retires to bed with a lantern on the nightstand. Ben sits in a newly purchased handcrafted wicker rocking chair there near the bed. Ben opens his Bible and begins his nightly ritual of reading Bible scripture. However, soon falls asleep. Mary Fisher was was startled and awakened during the night shortly thereafter when she felt something crawling up against the bed as if it was using the handmade Amish quilt as a rope to climb up the side of the bed. Now she attempted to speak, to scream. She opened her mouth, but no voice came out. The lantern across the room where her husband Ben had been, still dimly illuminating the bed in the bedroom. She saw Ben, or something that looked like Ben, crawl up on the bed. However, seemed to almost be paralyzed in his arms and his legs. She described it as they no longer had joints, but they were rather like being dragged behind him as he positioned himself above her face, still with her mouth wide open, trying to scream, trying to talk. Ben opened his mouth, and multiple whispering voices, she said, came from deep gurgling inside his chest. He began to inhale deeply, almost taking her breath literally from her. She noticed that blood seemed to run around the eyes, and that his eyes seemed to be glazed over with a milky white film. She felt surely that he had to be possessed. She finally summoned enough strength to kick from beneath the covers and propel Ben backwards off the bed and onto the floor, where he landed with a death-weight thud. She gasped and struggled for her breath, feeling as if she had almost been strangled. She clutched her throat, and she was finally able to let out that scream that she had initiated many minutes before. Now, this brought a neighboring husband and wife to investigate. When they arrived at the Fisher home, Mary Fisher had ran out of the house and was sitting on the front porch sobbing. The neighbor's wife comforted her as the neighbor's husband ran into the house with the open door. There he found his friend, his neighbor, Ben. Ben looked up at the neighboring friend, gagging and coughing, choking himself, then releasing a steady small stream of sandy-looking dry dirt onto the floor, and his eyes were now more milky white and blinded than ever. Ben finally collapsed into what appeared to be a burnt circle all around him, with the smell of sulfur and ash on the wood floor. The elders were immediately called to that hour, and they followed, in which they prayed over the man, seeming to convulse and writhe in pain within this burnt circle and these small piles of red, dry dirt. Now by morning, the prayers seemed to have comforted the man, and slowly he began to speak and act normally as Ben Fisher once again. Ben stated he had no memory at all of anything of the evening except for sitting down to read the Bible scripture, and then a touch of cold from behind him, which seemed to chill him to the bone. There was one window in the bedroom, which was placed directly behind the chair in which Ben Fisher had sat that night, and it was open, with plain white curtains blowing gently in the wind. Now one elder told that he was familiar with similar events. It had been passed down to him by his father. Of this area there was a story of a peculiarly strange boy that had been born to one of the families. He was about 14 years old when he died, but he also was born with milky white eyes and was totally blind. It was said he would sit on the floor, surround himself with a circle of red sandy dirt, and then clutch his wicker hat. He would then enter a trance, and he would spin the hat, running his fingers along the outside circumference of the brim. He might remain that way for an hour, or even days, never leaving the trance, never stopping for food or drink. And upon awakening, whenever that might be, he would call out names of those that were cursed by the devil, whom he said he went to visit, meaning the devil, when he entered these trances. He would then tell the elders the names that would fall victim to an approximate time of when they would die. He predicted 3 to 4 deaths accurately over the next 10 years, 2 of which they said occurred after his own mysterious death. Now, while the boy was a trusted Pennsylvania Dutch Amish, when he arrived in the community, he accompanied his aunt, and it is said that the boy predicted his parents' tragic death of their horse and buggy going off a bridge rail and plummeted into a raging river, where both lives were lost. With their close religious beliefs and the blind boy stating he walked behind the devil to overhear the devil's plans in order to gain knowledge, many believed he himself was possessed, and it is unsure of exactly what happened to the blind Amish boy, who predicted the deaths quite accurately, but he himself would die at the age of 14, and the aunt soon mysteriously left the community of the Amish. I thought that was a very weird little tale.
Well, when Eric threw this topic my way, again, my first impulse was, gee, this one could be insensitive if we're not careful. But then I started doing a search for, Amish country folklore and whatnot, and I gotta say that I fell down the creature side of things. And we've talked before, I'm a monster person. I really get a kick out of creatures of all kinds, and I like those stories. So the first one that jumped out, obviously, was the Amish country creature, also known as the Big Valley Monster. This is a monster described by a local paper as, quote, an ungodly-looking creature which created havoc among the local God-fearing Amish community, Pennsylvania, in August 1973. You remember, the Amish folk lead a simpler lifestyle, so 1973, obviously they don't have, cameras and things. They can only talk about what they've encountered there. But this creature terrorized the Amish farmers in Lancaster County during the late summer, or it terrorized the Big Valley region, still the Amish residents, which is about an hour north of Lancaster County, and that depends on the source you get the story from. Now, those who saw the Amish country creature described it as being the size of a good heifer, gray in color with a white mane. It had tiger-like fangs and curved horns like that of a billy goat. It ran upright on long legs and had long, grisly paws. One of the articles I read was, here's some art of the creature, and they say every drawing of the creature made it look sassy. And so he felt that you could call it a sass, S-A-S-S, Sasquatch.
Okay.
But some of the art was kind of
sassy.
I mean, he did have an attitude, I'll say that. Now, the first reported incident had the creature send a team of horses and two brothers fleeing for their lives when it approached them as they were loading hay on their wagon. Now, neither the brothers nor the horses were seriously injured, and the ground was dry and hard, so they weren't able to find any tracks when they went to investigate. Now, the next day, another farmer was cutting weeds from a fence row on his family farm. This was about 5 miles from where that first encounter took place. The man heard a fierce roar, and he turned to see an appalling creature, now with 3 horns and a tail, charging at him. He raised his scythe and swung at the monster to defend himself. The creature simply snatched it out of his hands, and at that point, the man turned tail and ran as fast as he could. He returned the next day with an investigator, only to discover that the creature had eaten all of the wooden parts of the scythe, leaving behind only the blade and just a handful of bolts. It was believed at the time that the creature must be crazy for salt. I'm not sure how we get to that, as a result of the prolonged heat wave they were experiencing. The day after that, after the encounter, with the guy with the scythe there, a woman was feeding the chickens, ducks, and geese on her farm. This was, and this farm was midway between where the 2 previous incidents had happened. She heard a commotion, and she turned to see the creature grabbing 2 of her largest geese, one in each of its huge hairy paws. Now she, much braver than I believe I would have been, ran towards the beast, showing a distinct lack of common sense, and she was waving her apron, like trying to scare the creature. The beast turned and threw one of the geese with enough force to knock her to the ground, and then fled the scene with the other goose still in hand. Unfortunately, the goose that it threw was thrown with such force that its neck was broken, the only fatality of the creature during the entire time that it was seen. Now, afterwards, there were lots of nervous farmers in the Big Valley region, but the creature was not seen again after snatching the woman's prized goose. Now, depending on the sources, there was apparently a series of articles that were going to be published. The guy who said he was going to do a 4-part series, he published the first article, and then none of the other 3 materialized. And apparently he claimed that was because he was told that this entire thing was a hoax. Now, whether it was or not, again, when you're talking about Pennsylvania Dutch Amish beliefs and you find the Amish County creature or the Amish country creature, you take a moment, and I thought that was a pretty good story.
Yeah.
And again, some of the art made it look very Minotaur-esque, except for the face was more human, but like the big billy goat horns and,
I'm still wrapping my mind around the sassiness. of the images.
There was, let me see if I can find the image that I'm thinking of in particular. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Is this
here
like
you
a
go.
Sasquatch leaning against a brick wall with some Mardi Gras beads he's twirling or what? Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, we've got like a black and white cartoon with this giant set of horns, of ram's horns on this monstrosity, almost picking up an Amish person by the sickle.
You got that one.
Oh yeah.
It's a different kind of charcoal
like, hey,
drawing.
Baby.
He's got a look. And then you have this one. It just looks like an old man. He just kind of just a shaggy old dude.
Hey, what do you want? Well, my next story is called the Siebener. It's basically a natural healer that exists within the world in the realm of the Amish and Pennsylvania Dutch counties. In the tightly knitted world of the Pennsylvania Dutch, faith governs all aspects of life. There exists a profound belief of a strong spiritual foundation in everything that they do. Well, this is considered God's will, where it is manifested, a seldom spoken about melding of beliefs of healing, both of natural medicine as well as obviously divine intervention and prayer. Now, within the framework, there's a belief that certain individuals can be born with certain connection directly to the divine and to be intuit with all those abilities, almost like conduits themselves with the Almighty from above. No one embodies this belief in the body more than the Siebener, the seventh son born of the seventh son within the Dutch Pennsylvania families. The power of this belief is in the holiest of connection with the number 7 in basically your Judeo-Christian teaching. The world was created in 7 days. The Sabbath is on the 7th day. Furthermore, the number 7 is associated with the Bible as a sign of completion, a sign of finishing a great task or a project. Therefore, it stands to reason that a seventh son, born of the seventh son, must surely be a divine sign of ancestral lineage that can be tracked directly back to the Bible and the teachings. Now, this set this boy child apart when he would be born with divine favor of the families. He was not special. He was not considered chosen directly by God. The Siebener would become a type of a medicine man, a religious scholar, a teacher, a doctor, but ultimately nothing more than a healer for the Dutch community. They were very rare, and so it was pretty custom for other areas of Amish and Mennonite. They might travel long distances from other towns, even other states, to seek this boy child out, to find out whatever it was that afflicted them and how he might be able to assist them. The Siebener would not have to be taught anything, no medical practices. He would not need to read old books or manuscripts of those that was written before him, but rather his divine healing was something he was literally born with. It came to natural as walking, speaking, hearing, or seeing. For example, he could pray over the patient, usually applying the laying on of hands and gently massaging areas of a wound. Common powers might be to remove a burn or the pain of an injury, possibly meld a broken bone or sprain, to cure internal ailments simply by laying his hands on that afflicted area. He could remove growths, warts, simply by touching them, then going through a gesture as if he was pulling it from the victim's body and folding it up in a small piece of cloth or a towel, then soaking it with anointed oil and then literally burying it beneath a tree in the ground. Within days, the patient would discover that same wart or same growth had completely vanished from their body. The Siebener would never take any payment of any kind. However, sometimes he would allow those that he treated to come work alongside him to help complete tasks on the farm or the home, things that might not be able to be accomplished by a single man. He might also accept an invitation to the patient's home for a home-cooked meal for the evening, in which the family would all pray over for protection, safety, and blessing. So, the Siebener, a natural healer, if you will, divine intervention, could be associated with many other stories in a different eyesight as witchcraft. But obviously here it's all in the manner of the glass in which you look at it.
The reference to not taking payment, that seems to be pretty common amongst people that do good work.
Good work, yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. Well, I say a lot of podcasts. There's maybe half a dozen or so that I listen to regularly, but I get to listen to a lot of them because when I'm doing computer work at my job, I can listen to whatever I choose to listen to.
In and do your work, yeah.
So I usually spend a good 3 or 4 hours a day listening to podcasts, but I've heard a lot of stuff lately about especially Native American people with the ability to help others, and a lot of the times, like some of the stories I listen to are like firsthand accounts, and they're like, we're not going to tell you his name. He asked us not to. He doesn't do it for the recognition. We offered to pay the guy for his help. He wouldn't accept any of the help.
Seems sincere.
We invited him over for a meal. He came over, had dinner with us, thanked us, but he wouldn't take any payment. And it seems to be pretty common for people that are doing it for the right reasons.
Unlike some of the big televangelists, evangelists, send me everything you've got
and
more.
Send in money and we'll pray for you. And
we'll put your name placard on a pew.
I hate mega churches. I think it's definitely a sin in its own way.
What's your next one?
So the year is 2002. It's a frigid cold morning in February. It is pretty cold in February. Rick Fisher is driving down Route 23 towards Marietta there in Pennsylvania when he suddenly sees what he thinks is a child in the middle of the road. He slows down, intending to offer help. I mean, who wouldn't?
All right.
When he sees that this is no child, what this is a 5-foot-tall, skinny creature covered in hair. He turns on his brights to get a better look, and when the creature turns around, its eyes reflect back, and they're a bright yellow. And then it just kind of steps to the side and disappears. Many would say what Rick saw that day was an albatwitch. Basically, a mini Sasquatch that stands about 4 or 5 feet tall. They walk slightly hunched over, making them seem smaller. Their fur ranges from reddish-brown to almost black, and their faces are covered in fur with little yellow eyes peeking out, providing excellent camouflage in the forest area that it lives in. They have a wide mouth filled with fine teeth, perfect for its omnivorous diet. They have long arms said to reach down almost to its ankles, and its feet are exceptionally big and flat. Now they are said to live primarily among the trees and can move quickly through the treetops, leaping from branch to branch and climbing tree trunks with ease. They are said to reside along the banks of the Susquehanna River into the heavily wooded area around the area known as Chickies Rock. Chickies Rock itself, a massive outcropping of quartzite rock towering 100 feet above the river. Now, they are very shy of humans. They avoid interaction with people if at all possible. They're mostly nocturnal. They hunt for food at night, coming down from the trees, mostly looking for fruits, berries, nuts, and sometimes little animals.
Wee little animals.
But their favorite treat, one of their favorite treats, is apples. And hence, they believe the name is derived from the Pennsylvania Dutch English word Apfelschnitz, meaning apple snitch or apple elf. So again, we have the albatwitch. Now they have a habit of sneaking up, this is from the old lore, and stealing apples from picnickers. And then when they eat the apple, they've been known to throw the core at people back at the picnickers.
That definitely sounds like a little pixie or an elf or something.
Some kind of imp.
Yeah.
Local stories say they've created a secret language to communicate amongst themselves without alerting nearby humans, using whistles and clicks and like hooting sounds so they sound like an owl. Now, some stories claim that the Susquehannocks, a local tribe, believed in an ape-like monster that inhabited the region, with some war shields depicting the small, hunched-over creatures. The Susquehannocks also passed down tales of the little brothers of the forest who would on occasion help lost hunters by leaving trails of nuts and berries, leading them back to known trails and eventually back home. Coincidentally, major evidence of the Susquehannock civilization has been found around the base of Chickies Rock. The Algonquin people of the region also had tales of small, hairy hominid creatures in the region, which they referred to as the Megamuisus.
Megamuisus.
Early European settlers claimed to have encountered the creatures. Occasionally, historical colonial era papers would mention strange little men of the woods that would steal from farms and gardens. Some involved sightings of multiple creatures, which were much more daring in wintertime as they approached settlements apparently in search of food. Obviously, these harsh winters, food would be scarce in the woods. And people, they plan for winter, they stock up, so these little men would come out and would snatch some food. And of course, this all means that the Albatwitch was well known by the time of the American Revolution. Legends say they either became extinct or were driven to near extinction towards the end of the 19th century, with the surviving population moving deeper into the forests. Now, Chickies Rock does have a long history of strange sights and sounds, and especially during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a man-like figure was routinely spotted in the area, and strange sounds like the crack of a whip could be heard in the woods at night. One encounter was told by a boy to his parents that in the 80s, he said that the creature had come up to him eye to eye and pinned him against a tree. Now, the boy's brother was with him, and he screamed when he saw the creature, which then released the terrified child and scurried away into the woods. And as recently as April of 2024, there was a sighting reported in Lancaster Conservancy's Fishing Creek Nature Preserve. The witnesses were out on a Saturday night and heard strange noises echoing from across the creek. The sounds continued throughout the night and were soon joined by a distinct wet dog type of odor. Then at one point, one of the witnesses thought he suspected something had been thrown at him. Later, one of the witnesses ventured away from the car to relieve himself, left his companion behind in the car while, he was doing his business there. It was then that he noticed a face peeking from behind a tree just about 10 feet away. He described it as resembling the face of a monkey with dark, piercing eyes. He estimated the creature to be just under 3 feet, but it was crouched down. You could tell that it wasn't standing upright. And despite his repeated exclamations of disbelief, which I like that sentence because I can only imagine it's probably along the lines, "Oh crap, what is that? Oh my God." But he said the creature remained motionless, appearing neither hostile nor agitated. And then it just suddenly ducked back behind the tree and disappeared. According to the witness, the tree was barely a foot wide. And so it seemed impossible for the creature to simply be able to step back behind the tree and just disappear. The witness ran over and immediately checked the area where the creature had been, but could find no evidence, only that lingering wet dog smell, which was confirmed by the companion in the car. So, if you're hiking in the Chickies Rock area and you hear a cracking sound like that of a broken branch overhead, an Albatwitch might be lurking in the trees above. Now, Albatwitch hunts used to take place in Lancaster County, but no one ever really bagged one. I envision it the way they were described as being something like a snipe hunt. You get one guy with a bag and, hey, we're going to flush the Albatwitch out towards you. And even to this day, they celebrate Albatwitch Day in October in Columbia, Pennsylvania. And I really liked this. You can buy an Albatwitch t-shirt with a cute critter logo and the slogan that says, "Stealing apples since the 1700s. And Albatwitch Day was started by none other than Rick Fisher, who once saw an Albatwitch on a February morning.
I love that story. That so reminds me of you and I working side by side on night shift at break time, telling stories. I mean, that's like right out of the pages of almost a fairy tale. And so many boxes were checked. Like there was some brownie aspects, some elf, some sprite.
Yeah, some trickstery-ish type things.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, for my third and last story that I have, it is something that I felt was more perplexing, practices involving the Amish and Mennonite communities of Pennsylvania Dutch and their observation and beliefs on dreams. I'm not going to say Amish and Mennonite might never have nightmares. However, in my research, I found that seemed to be uncommon. But they do have a really different way of thinking about dreams and what those dreams may mean. And what happens when you close your eyes. They believe that you are entering almost, and this is my term, a dreamscape. They believe it almost as a meditation, as a way for their bodies to find rest and relaxation, as well as divine purpose. So, it's kind of that time of self-illumination and evaluation and these lessons that the divine can teach you through the means of sleep. You see, the Dutch Old World believes dreams are messages. Every one of them is a very intuit message, sometimes even needing to be decoded, if you will, to understand the meaning of what God is speaking to them. They so much believe in this that many families have what is called a Dosttraum, or a dream book, that they carefully record their dreams in, and it is often kept right alongside their family Bible. Now, that to me says
That's
a lot. They value the Bible and their dreams, I mean, almost equally. You might as well say keeping those close together. For these people, they believe that a dream could be a prophecy, it could be a warning or a divine push in making a decision coming up in the near future. Still, many of these dreams would be filled with metaphors, such as a snake, a tree, a particular animal, or, something along those likes. Upon awakening, they would seek out their Das Traum book, the dream book, belonging to the family. And there they could flip through and find pages and pages of illustrations, often hand-drawn with detailed writings and notes about how previous family members had also foresaw those same dreams. So not only are you evaluating it to yourself, but you're following the lineage, if you will, of a dream almost, which I thought was really cool. Things such as approaching storms, they, could affect barn raisings, plantings, cultivation of crops. They could then be learned or altered of their decisions for the best outcome. Like, hey, a big storm's coming in this weekend. We're going to have to postpone the barn raising or going out to get the crops. It's almost like, you and I would go to the Weather Channel to kind of see, hey, I want to go out and go hiking this weekend. Oh my gosh, no, it's supposed to start raining at 10 o'clock and just torrential downpours all weekend. This is a way for them to get divine weather, divine lessons, divine teachings. Dreams were something taken very serious, always with a meaning, and however it may be hidden or blurred, often even to the point if the family couldn't figure it out themselves, they would call in elders to pull out their family dream books and compare. Because a lot of times in the close Dutch Pennsylvania communities, what affected one family could affect the entire community. So it was so important that these dreams might be studied for a week or more to try to understand and to glean some meaning into the prophecy there. A few examples of dream interpretation would be if you dreamed of a clear flowing brook. Okay, well, that simply meant your body was healthy, your path is clear, you should basically continue what you're doing towards your destination. However, if you dreamed maybe of muddy or turbulent water, that meant sickness or illness, affliction. Something may be already afflicting you and you just hadn't noticed yet. Pay more attention, slow down, get more rest, refocus. It might suggest that, you need to change your path entirely to find a smoother, clearer waterway, signifying divine intervention. It did not seem that the Amish or Mennonite dream very often, but when they did, it was always taken back and then recorded in the Das Traum dream book. And again, following some of the old Pennsylvania Dutch notes and stuff, it's not real clear because they're not describing it for us to understand it. They're just describing it as a means to do what they need to do. But the way it was worded, if you will, I almost envisioned like if you had 4 to 6 dreams a year, that was pretty normal. And I go years, it seems, without being able to remember a dream.
I was going to say, if you think about the number of times you have a dream that you remember,
yeah,
you don't have that many.
But I will say, like, for whatever reason, like when I travel, you were sharing that, like whenever you sleep someplace for the first time, I seem to dream vividly for like 2 or 3 days. And I think when we move around,
would be probably because of the disruption to your normal, routine or whatever.
Maybe that's that primal instinct or whatever. It's like, hey, these are not your normal surroundings. Be on the lookout. I don't know.
I was talking to my daughter just not the other day, and I do have these theories. I think there's a lot of things that people do unconsciously. The first night syndrome. If you were sleeping in a strange place for the first time, it seems like it would be a good idea not to sleep as deeply in case something happens.
Right.
When someone gets sick and you feel like you're going to be sick when you see them be sick, I think it's, once upon a time we all used to eat from the same source of food, and if it made one person sick, maybe we all need to get sick.
Or the same water source, or whatever.
Or yawning when you see somebody else yawn. I mean, if one member of your group is tired, maybe you should all stop and rest. You don't want to leave somebody behind. I think there's a lot of these
hive
things,
mind kind of aspect.
I think there's a lot of these things that are there for a reason.
Well, is it time for headlines, Bill?
No, I got one more.
Well, let's do your other story then.
Don't get ahead of us. I did creatures. Like, I like my monsters. And this creature may not be specifically from Pennsylvania Dutch Country, but it is from Pennsylvania. And I may never have another chance to talk about this delightfully sad little creature. And so I want to put it in right here.
Delightfully sad little creature. You have my interest already, boss.
Oh, I think you'll like this one. In the vast, dense hemlock forest of Pennsylvania lives a creature so rare that very few outside of the state have ever even heard of it. According to legend, the squonk is a terribly misunderstood creature. In those hemlock forests, this creature lives a life of sorrow and solitude. The creature is reclusive, preferring to only venture out under cover of darkness, due to the fact that its own appearance is a cause of constant misery to it and to others.
I actually read a little bit about this. This is humorous.
It is a pig-like animal with an ugly appearance. It has loose, ill-fitting skin and is covered in warts and moles with webbed toes. Its unfortunate appearance fills the squonk with such despair that it spends its whole life weeping, and it moves the slowest on moonlit nights, hoping to avoid seeing its own reflection in any moonlit waters.
This poor thing's not ugly, it's fugly.
Yeah. Those who know the creature describe its existence as one of the saddest on earth. According to William T. Cox, author of Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods, readers of his 1910 book need only, quote, follow its tear-stained trail if you'd like to see a squonk.
Aww.
However, when cornered with no hope of escape, or even if simply startled, the squonk can dissolve itself completely into a pool of tears.
Oh, wow.
Those who wish to encounter a squonk have better than average chances on cold moonlit winter nights, the freezing temperatures causing its tears to flow just a little more slowly, and the creature being reluctant to move in the moonlight, so that it may avoid seeing its own reflection, can be heard sobbing under the shelter of the dark hemlock trees. One memorable squonk encounter was had by J.P. Wentling near the town of Mont Alto. Hoping to catch sight of the sorrowful beast, Wentling was set out one cold winter night. While moving through the woods, he mimicked the soft, mournful cries of the squonk and managed to lure one into a sack. Satisfied that he'd captured one of the sad beasts, he began heading home. However, as he walked, the sobbing from the bag ceased, and the bag suddenly seemed to grow lighter. Curious, he opened the bag and found nothing but a puddle of tears.
That is so horrifically sad.
This poor, sad little thing. And if you look up pictures on the internet, all the art of the squonk is just horribly, horribly sad. The squonk is such a sad-looking thing.
Wow. I want a t-shirt. I want something. I want to support the squonk. All right. Now is it headlines, Bill?
It's time for headlines, Eric.
All right. Well, my headline comes from Listverse, online, April 2021, right out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And it includes something that, again, I didn't associate in my limited mind with the Amish, but that is Amish puppy mills.
That's a thing?
That's apparently a thing. This story was written by a Jonathan Hastad, and apparently the Amish, at least in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania region, and I would assume maybe across the country, but there in Lancaster has recently been under the scrutiny for owning and operating large puppy mills.
Wow.
Now, we live here, obviously, in Missouri, and honestly,
known for its puppy mills.
We hear a lot about various raids.
Our government, well, no, didn't the people of Missouri vote against puppy mills, and then the government overthrew the law?
Yeah, overrun that, I think. Yep.
Yeah, if you're in Missouri, you routinely vote for things that you think you want, but the government
doesn't mean you're
going
to get it. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to get it just because you vote for it.
Paid sick leave and things like that. Yeah, I mean, why would you want that?
Why would we let the people decide that stuff? We'll decide what you want and you'll like it. But
I didn't think that's how democracy was supposed to work.
But I will say now, and all jokes aside, this is to me a serious issue. There's some deplorable conditions of right here in Missouri I've seen in some other puppy mills.
Yeah, no, I've seen them. They're awful.
Oh, terrible. But I just never associated that with, the Amish. I was a bit shocked, I guess, to learn that Amish also now seem to be involved. Now, while, Amish and Mennonites seem to keep to themselves, they're known to keep all sorts of livestock. And raising puppies obviously can come quite profitable, even for the Amish. I have
in my head that it's probably mainly hunting dogs. but I don't know if you found anything
Never
about that.
said that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just where my mind goes.
Yeah, maybe. Back in early 2021, a raid was conducted at a handful of, and it said a handful, so there's more than one, of Amish ran puppy mills in and around the Lancaster County of Pennsylvania. There they found and seized more than 1,000 dogs, many of which were still puppies. I'm not sure how all this worked, since Amish often kind of shun outside assistance, even from the law, keeping things, very quiet, very private, and often with the elders essentially handling down discipline, shunning of members. So I'm not real sure how that took place. Maybe similar to what you were just saying, that, hey, we're going to do this. No, you're not. We're going to tell you what you're going to do. We're going to come on your property and take. I don't know. But regardless, once the puppies were seized, interviews were conducted and a full-blown investigation followed. The ordeal became quite a bit of a muddled mess with the Amish versus the New World, when they insisted the Amish, saying, our puppies are not being mistreated. They were simply being treated like any other Amish livestock. Okay. But of course, retaliation fell back when it was declared that dogs are not livestock.
Now, we elevate dogs above other animals.
I was going to say that's a blurred line, because you have like the Great Pyrenees dogs that, maybe they're not livestock, but come on, they're livestock dogs. There's shepherds that are used to corral. They're working
you don't treat
animals
it like
on
livestock,
the farm.
though.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, you're a dog owner.
I know.
You don't treat them like livestock.
My dogs get clothes and their own pillows.
My wife bought a sling so she could take her Chihuahua on walks with her. Because the poor thing won't walk. It'll take about 15 steps with you, and then it's just
and look up at you
and looks at you so sad.
How dare you just leave me to die out here on the walking trail?
We'll be on an aside here, but my wife we got this Chihuahua. I may have told the story, but we sort of accidentally ended up with this Chihuahua. I won't get into the whole thing, but this has become my wife's dog. My wife worked the concession stand Friday at the football game here in town.
Okay.
The dog, there's a little folded up blanket that sits on the back of my love seat so she can peer over her kingdom, if you will. The Chihuahua ran up there and sat there, and this dog gets tears in its eyes. It was bedtime, Eric.
It's like the skrunk or whatever.
The squonk. It was bedtime, and Mom wasn't home, and she wanted to go to bed. And when I went to bed, I was like, you want to go to bed with me? You want to come in the bedroom? And she looked at me for a minute and then laid her head down on the blanket. She is such a spoiled canine. She's definitely not livestock.
Not livestock. Well, my dogs aren't livestock either. But with the story, of course, the retaliation fell back when it was declared dogs are not livestock. Okay. While the Amish said, our dogs are kept in barns, it was noted, obviously there's no power in those barns because, that's what Amish are. There's no heat. There's no air. And many believe the dogs could not or should not be kept without such luxuries.
They're animals.
They're animals. It's a gray line.
Depending on how you want to treat your animals. But
again, some of the dogs that aren't livestock that associate and work with livestock, those aren't going to be the ones folded up on the back of a blanket of a couch in someone's house. Those are going to be living in the barn.
Why you got to call me out here?
Or the field. Or they're not going to be wearing Halloween shirts like my dogs do right now this time of year.
My dog has a Halloween scarf that she wears.
Snazzy. The things we do for our dogs.
My big dog has a Halloween PJs that he wears.
PJs.
My dogs are spoiled. I'm not going to lie.
But you can see there's a lot of this kind of the gray area. And again, I don't want to take light of this because puppy mills, like I said, there's some horrible conditions.
There can be appalling conditions. We're not supporting puppy mills by any means.
The main things that they brought out was not dirty pens. It wasn't foul smell. It was possibly a little overcrowding.
Yeah.
No electricity, no lighting. No heat, and no air conditioning. And so they went in and seized over 1,000 of these dogs. And from what I could read, most of the Amish were just like, okay, fine, we'll just stop. And they, before any decision even came out of like a court or anything, they're like, okay, we just won't do that. So I don't I'd like to believe they weren't trying to have deplorable puppy mills.
I don't think.
I think Amish just have different ways of doing things.
Well, again, yeah, I think culturally speaking, they were just breeding dogs to breed dogs, like you would breed cattle or sheep or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, we sort of elevate certain animals, cats, dogs, things like that. We elevate them above other animals.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, I will throw in a story that kind of directly affected me with Amish here in Missouri. Back in another lifetime, my wife and I used to sell eggs to a local hatchery. And I learned a lot through that business venture that we did for, I guess, about 4 or 5 years, that a lot of the chicken eggs that this hatchery bought was purchased from the Mennonites and the Amish as well. And one of the things that really kind of threw me aside was they said, now once the Amish and Mennonites hens get to be about 2 years, maybe 3 years old, they throw them out of the barn, just out on their own, because they're not going to lay as many eggs anymore.
Yeah.
So they keep younger ones and they throw the old ones out. And I thought to myself, wow, that's cold. I mean, just throw those birds out. Not saying that they couldn't eat and drink.
I mean, if they weren't like torturing them or
but
anything.
they don't have the protection. So a lot of times, obviously,
foxes,
dogs, foxes, bobcats, whatever would get them. But they said that is how they manage business. In their minds, it's business.
Yeah.
We've had this hen. She's 3 years old. She's going to lay half as many eggs. Why would I feed her as well and care for her as well as her offspring that's going to give me more eggs and make me more?
I mean, when you look at it that way, I get it.
I do, but it's like, it's the morals dilemma. It's the looking through different eyes.
Again, culturally speaking, we look at animals, I think, differently. They look at animals as a source of income, food, whatever. That's not a member of the family. You don't treat it as such. You don't name it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was even joking with my daughter before I left the house this afternoon to come over here. All of my dogs have different names. I mean, that's how you name them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And each
you don't
one,
say, "Hey, dogs, come."
Each one has an animal associated with that name. We have Lucy Dog. We call her. Hey, Lucy Dog, come here. And then we have Teddy, and you can guess the teddy bear.
Looks like a big old teddy bear.
So he's Teddy Bear. And then Tofu, the Chihuahua, and you can laugh at the
Tofu.
name. We didn't name her, but that's her name. But I call her Rat. I routinely call her because she's not much bigger than a rat.
I call my little one Little Rat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, each of my animals has a different animal name. And if you say Teddy Bear, Teddy knows who you're talking to. And if you call Tofu, she's probably just as likely to respond to that or Rat. So, but yeah, like, again, I think culturally speaking, we ascribe more importance to animals.
Yeah.
And there are definitely times where I saw like a YouTube video of a kid and they were showing this kid animals on a farm. And she's like, what's this? Pointing to a cow. And she goes, that's hamburger. They're like, no, it's a cow. She's like, yeah, now it'll be a hamburger later.
Wait a few months. It'll transform. And I will fully say, I mean, when I had my previous little dog, Izzy, which we lost, she was my little companion. She went everywhere with me. I guarantee you, my past ancestors would come out of their grave and kick me in the arse because I'm a big guy. And here I have these little rat dogs, that lay next to me in bed and have their own pillows and we dress up and we do all this. I guarantee you you probably wouldn't even have to go back to a third grandfather. My second grandfather would probably kick me in the butt and say, what are you doing? It's a dog. Yeah. I mean, seriously.
I will say that my grandpa and my great grandpa both had Spitzes, so they didn't have great big hunting dogs. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, the little Chihuahua, she goes to bed with my wife. She's got her schedule. She lays in there in the bed, and then my daughter goes and gets her and carries her down to her room, and she sleeps with my daughter. And the other dogs have their schedule, and they know. And Teddy's a good example. Teddy doesn't like storms. Teddy won't go outside unless somebody goes with him. And dogs are supposed to go, but he won't go out. But if there's a storm, we have to leave the bathroom door open because the bathroom door is completely enclosed, no windows. The bathroom,
He feels safe there.
He feels safe there. That's his den. And he will go in and he curls up in the bathroom floor. And if you go in, He will give you the saddest look and he will slink out the door so you can do what you got to do.
Do your business.
And then when you open the door, he's right there waiting and he'll come right back in as soon as you get.
He's probably thinking, how dare you come in my house and take a poopy in here?
Well, if
go off and leave.
If you consider the fact that I've thought about this. If you consider the fact that dogs mark their territory the way they do.
Yeah, you just marked up his territory.
I was going to say, they must think the bathroom's the most important room of the house.
No doubt. Well, and one might argue also, we'll close this down, I promise, but what's the proper word? The proper puppy breeding establishments, not a puppy mill, whatever you would call the positive version of that.
Just like a real breeder.
Honestly, in the past 5 to 10 years, I think have made more intentional crossbreeds of dogs that could no way ever survive in the wilderness.
With bulldogs,
they are making things that you
and
have to artificially inseminate because they can't even get that right. Flat noses, faces, they have breathing issues. So, yeah.
My mother-in-law had a bulldog, and that was the unhealthiest looking animal.
Oh, yeah. And I love bulldogs. They're so cute and snarkly.
This thing literally couldn't walk across the room without.
Oh, yeah. Like you got asthma chain smoker or something.
We are anti those kinds of dogs in my house. My wife loves them. She thinks they're adorable, but we won't buy them because we don't support, they're so unhealthy.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, we have an Australian Shepherd. We have an Australian Shepherd Poodle mix, and then we have the Chihuahua. And they seem fairly healthy. And they don't have breathing problems, and they can run around the yard. And hey, can I do a headline?
Go ahead and do a headline. Now that we totally got off kilter with dog breeding and Amish beliefs.
Well, sometimes I have a headline that I pick just because it helps reinforce that one of the things I talked about is still relevant today. From ABC27.com, dated September 8th, 2025, by Drew Kolek. Have you spotted the squonk, Pennsylvania's very own cryptid? As the summer comes to a close and the cool chill of fall nips the air, creepy creatures will soon emerge from the dark as their time to shine draws near. While some states have iconic creepy cryptids like Point Pleasant, West Virginia's Mothman, or California's Fresno Nightcrawlers, Pennsylvania's strangely named mythical beast is somewhat, pathetic.
Fugly.
Its name, the squonk, and its first known origins stem from the book Fearsome Creatures of the Underwood, written by William T. Cox and published in 1910. The book, which spans only 50 pages, features illustrations and brief descriptions of different mythical beasts that make their home in the woods. Cox, who claimed the creatures resided in Pennsylvania's hemlock forest, described the squonk as a sniveling, sad creature who is constantly crying over how ugly it is. Quote, because of its misfitting skin, which is covered with warts and moles, it is always unhappy. Hunters who are good at tracking are able to follow the squonk by its tear-stained trail, for the animal weeps constantly. The teary-eyed creature even has its own scientific name, thanks to a mythological encyclopedia by Josepha Sherman, Lacrimacorpus dissolvens, which means body dissolves into tears. While the sad, lonesome squonk is out crying in the forest, one city has recently begun a celebration in its honor. Squonkapalooza,
oh my God,
is hosted in Johnstown and describes itself as an all-ages cryptid festival celebrating the squonk and other creatures of Appalachian and Americana folklore and cryptozoology. The event features a crying squonk mascot and offers attendees educational experiences to learn about cryptids, along with local vendors and live entertainment. But this isn't the first time the squonk has found itself as the center of attention. Steely Dan's 1974 track, Any Major Dude Will Tell You, references the squonk's tears in a verse. And the Genesis album, A Trick of the Tail, features a song simply titled Squonk. So the next time you're out taking a hike in one of Pennsylvania's many beautiful parks, keep an ear out for the soft sobs of the squonk. You never know if they could be lurking nearby.
My demented mind goes to so many bad places probably, but Squonkapalooza. I'm almost envisioning a bunch of emo kids coming and they're looking all sad and they got their black tear makeup on and and all of this and trying to make the squonk feel better about themselves.
Well, in today's day and age, that would be everybody's beautiful on the inside.
You're beautiful just the way you are. Squonk, squonk, squonk,
don't
squonk.
Cry about the way you look, old squonk.
Well, I think it's question time, Bill. And I put a lot of thought into this. So I challenge you to really dig deep on this question.
These are the ones that usually give me trouble.
They frighten Bill.
Make me nervous.
My question for you this week is simple. If you were told, for whatever reason, Bill, you're going to go stay with an Amish family for the next 2 years. They have no electricity, obviously. What would you fear the most, and what might you welcome the most?
My physical health being what it is. I don't know how much help I'm going to be raising barns and whatnot. I'm almost certain the first month will just be dying every day. Not that there's no value in hard work, but I've been essentially a desk jockey for 20-something years.
Right.
And I don't do a lot of hard work outside of my job.
Physical.
Again, I've been doing, my daily walks and I've been trying to keep a good pace and all that, but that's certainly not the same as building a barn and driving a nail and all that. I do think the flip side, though, would be to get away from technology for a little while, maybe.
Amen.
I can't help but notice, even if I'm watching something and a commercial comes on, the minute the show you're watching ends, phone comes out, you're browsing.
Yeah.
Or, if there's a minute pause in a conversation, you start
grab that phone.
Like the other day, I got home and I set my phone down, and I don't think I picked it up again until I got ready to go to bed. And I had some missed text messages, and I felt bad because I felt like the people at the other end of that phone, you were one of them. I was like, they probably think I'm just ignoring them because, in this day and age, you've always got that phone on you.
Right.
And it was like, I don't want to be rude, but at the same time, I shouldn't feel bad because I didn't carry my phone and answer it the minute something happened.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe just getting away from technology. So,
to that point, my mother texted me last night, probably 12:45, 1 a.m. Now, to some people, that'd be like, oh my gosh, it must have been an emergency. My mom stays up all night long.
My mom was a night owl,
So yeah. But, and I was that horrible son. The first response was she was asking me, she says, hey, you need to get with one of your cousins. He's got some stories and stuff that, he's wanting to share with you. I did the thumbs up because I'm working on literally what we're recording today. I've got it all spread out.
My kids talk about how mine are either a single emoji or a single word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then she responds again, like 5 minutes later, and gives me some more details. And so I was like, I need to respond rather than just a thumbs up. So I said, okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd be interested. Right now, it's like pushing 1:30 in the morning. My wife's already upstairs. She's been upstairs for 3 hours waiting for me to come upstairs. I'm surprised she hasn't come down here and drugged me out by the head of the hair. I need to finish this. I'm working on recording and, then I'll follow up with her. But yeah, to that point, you got to have that phone. You're multitasking.
You feel bad if you don't answer it, and then you feel bad if you have it on you. And like I said, I've become especially aware of it lately. Like the minute there's a pause or whatever, there's even been times I've been at my desk at work and I've had an errant thought and been like, oh, let me look that up real quick. And you just start down a rabbit hole and it's like, I got a job to do. I can't sit here and play on my phone.
I remember back when our kids were younger and they used to do the same thing, teenagers, and be like, put that blasted phone down. We're having a meal. We're having a conversation. And to me, even, I considered it rude if I was talking to someone and they reached down and took their phone. It's like, I'm right here.
Exactly.
I know you may not be interested in a single thing I'm saying, but at least give a fatal attempt. And I am so much more guilty myself.
I was in a meeting the other day and something was said and it was something I wanted to make a note of. And I pulled out my phone to make a note of it in my phone. And it
could even be business related.
I was preemptively apologetic too. I was like, hey, I don't want you to think I'm being rude. I said, I want to make a note of this so I don't forget.
Yeah.
And even the lady I was talking to, she was like, no, that's a good idea. Like, yeah, we should get these things down. I guess she'd read a book or something about that. Like, get those thoughts down because you're never going to remember them. You won't remember everything.
Yeah. My answer to my question there, very similar. Obviously, what I would welcome, I think, after I would get through the hurdle of pain is like what we just talked about. Just a disconnect from media, electronics.
It's just too easy to become addicted and to get stuck.
It's a drug.
I'm actually, I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but I'm trying to steer away from certain types of content online right now. Certain things just, they get into your head and I mean, some of it is news in general. I'm trying to avoid news.
Yep.
So
much depressing stuff is all that's shared.
Yeah.
There's still positive stuff out there, but they don't share that a lot.
Well, that doesn't get clicks, does it? That doesn't get eyes.
No.
You know, you want to hear about all the horrible things and how we all hate each other and we're getting ready to go to war with ourselves.
Yeah. But as far as what I would probably dislike the most, so I guess would make me most nervous, is I'm an artist. For 2 years, I don't think I would be comfortable or maybe not even allowed to draw, to paint, because that kind of stuff is not important to them.
Well, that's true.
If you're assimilating,
make quilts.
Make quilts. Yeah, okay.
Be artistic about it.
But yeah, I'd be out there on the side of the silo, like painting the Grim Reaper or something, you know.
Well, that would be like my storytelling impulse. They don't go in for the stories that I tell.
We could go to the Amish place together and invite them to play Dungeons and Dragons.
We'd really have to
by lantern light,
tone down what's
with
in
skunks.
Squonk.
Squonk. I got to pronounce that right.
Squonk.
Poor thing. He's already sad enough. I can't pronounce his name right.
Poor miserable thing.
Poor miserable. Going to blurb into a pile of tears.
Well, I thought I had a good question, and then you went on the dream thing, and that kind of gave me an idea for a different question.
Okay.
Do you have a good, maybe funny, maybe scary, but like a dream that stuck with you or something like that?
I remember I went through a phase of having a dream that I was falling, which later I learned was, if you don't wake up before you fall, then you could die in your sleep, kind of thing. I had that same dream for like a week every night. Yeah, it was really weird.
Did it wake you up?
Oh, yes. I woke up every time, and every night I would wake up a little sooner because my programming, my mentality, I'm going to die if I don't wake up, kind of deal. I need to wake up now.
I remember having a dream where I was in a car that went off a cliff, and it was the same kind of deal.
Yeah,
yeah. And then I was, oh, God, I woke up, and I was just,
oh, man, your heart's racing.
And you're like,
broke out in sweat.
And it doesn't matter what time it is. You're like all of a sudden wide awake. You're just like.
And then you really don't want to go back to sleep for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. But I had that. That really kind of wigged me out. Never had it happen since.
I had a dream this morning, which is part of the reason I decided to ask the question. It was funny. I told my wife about it when I woke up. So the alien from the movie franchise Alien, had gotten to Earth.
Not an alien, the alien.
The alien. And the way Ripley says, if these things get to Earth, then that's it. It's all over.
Extinct. Yep.
And our good corporate overlords had decided the business has to continue. And so they were evacuating all of their employees to space, the company that I work for specifically.
Okay.
And I was trying to text my wife, but my phone wasn't working right. And I was trying to say, like, hey, they're sending us to space. And I'm trying to text her, and my phone's not working.
Now, is your family going to maybe join you later? Or?
No, the impression I had in the dream was we were being sent as company.
You were being kidnapped.
The company was sending us.
Yeah, you were being
business
kidnapped.
could continue. And I was trying to text my wife, and I couldn't get to her. And some jerk, we were sitting through, it's a good corporate thing. So we're sitting through here's the safety briefing. Here's the things you need to know.
Full blown.
And I'm trying to text, my wife, and my phone's not working. And one of the other guys in the group that was watching the video, because they were doing it in groups, he was trying to get me in trouble because I wasn't watching the safety video. I was texting my wife.
That pesky phone out again.
Because again, not only are there aliens on Earth, but my company is trying to send me into space.
They're trying to keep you safe, Bill.
And in hindsight, I mean, if the aliens invaded, my particular industry would probably not be that important.
Right. Yeah.
And my role especially, who's going to be sending those items into space to get fixed? Like, why? You wouldn't know.
Why?
It seems like a lot of shipping.
Yeah.
So
you might have had a more sinister purpose.
Well, if you try to interpret it, I think, I've been kind of kicking it around, and, the idea that you spend 8 hours a day at work away from your family, maybe I feel like the company's trying to snatch me away. I don't know.
Good play.
But yeah, it was just, I woke up, it's so weird. Hey, the other day I had a dream that I met CM Punk. I don't remember much about it, but I met CM Punk in my dream. I've had a lot of weird dreams. I don't know, like, the one that sticks with me the most, I had this dream when I was a little bitty kid. I couldn't have been 5, 6 years old. I remember having a dream where there was a hippopotamus who had went to the veterinarian and said he had a frog in his throat.
Sounds like a bad joke.
And the veterinarian pulled out a smaller hippopotamus, and it became like nesting dolls. Then that hippopotamus was like, I have a frog in my throat. And they pulled out a smaller hippopotamus.
Nothing is as you see.
And again, that was when I was like 5 or 6. That dream has stuck in my head ever since for some reason.
Well, we've shared before, and I'll kind of wrap things up here. Another dream I had actually was the launching of Nightmares on the Lost Highway. And I had went to Bill, and he brought up the podcast because I'm older than he is and more naive, and I knew what a podcast was. I honestly, I don't think I'd ever listened to a podcast at that point. And Bill's like, man, we should get together and do a podcast just like all of our normal talks. And it's like, weird. It's funny you should mention that, because I had a dream and we already had a name for it, and it was Nightmares on the Lost Highway. And I said, I can see it so vividly. It was like this little town, and it was like a late night talk radio show, like midnight kind of thing. And we just shared little creepy stories.
And I remember looking up the name because I was immediately like, that's a cool name. And I was like, surely somebody's used it. And I looked it up. I did a lot of searching. The closest I came to was it David Lynch, The Lost Highway, the movie?
Yeah. Yep.
That's the closest I've gotten to it. Because I remember you swearing up and down. You're like, I didn't come up with this. Like, I know this was a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I can't find any reference to it anywhere.
Almost like I tuned into it and was listening, you know, and I really enjoyed the show. It's like, we could do one like that. And here we are doing that, I guess. So.
Prophetic dream.
I've
had some of those too. I think everybody has at some point.
I had some dreams when I left our previous place of employment that was surprisingly very happy.
I had a dream about our previous place of employment not that long ago. And my wife was like, well, what was it? And I said, they were trying to get me to come back.
Yeah.
And I was negotiating salary, and they weren't coming to where I needed to be. And I was just like, look, you're going to make up for what I've lost, or I'm not coming back. You need to make it worth my while. I have skills you need. I have education and experience you will find valuable, and you got rid of it once. You're going to pay for it to come back.
Yep.
And my wife was like, look at you. You're negotiating salary and stuff. You don't even want to go back in your dreams.
You're doing it in your sleep. Well, I know, and I apologize, we kind of veer off kilter occasionally. We try really hard to stay on topic, but I also want to give a shout out. I had a listener, local listener, came up to me the other day, and it was in one of the grocery stores, and they come up and they complimented us, Bill, on our little
nice
fledgling, almost 5-year-old podcast. And they're like, one of the things I really like about you guys' podcast, and I'm thinking, the stories? And he goes, well, no, those are good. Those are good. But he goes, no, that's not really it. I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of struggling a bit here. And I said, okay, you're going to tell me. And he goes, so many podcasts I listen to, and I don't mean offense to any podcast out there, but this is just somebody else's words to me. This is not my words. They said, you'll listen, and it's a 30-minute or 45-minute podcast, and it's 20 minutes of stuff that has nothing to do with the podcast. He says, you guys have your opening. I know what we're going to be talking about. Yeah. I know what I'm going to be listening for. I know if I'm going to like it or not. And he goes, and I listen regardless. He goes, even the ones I think, I don't know about this. He goes, you guys always seem to pull the story in and grab me by the hook of it. And I'm like, dude, that is the biggest compliment you could possibly
give us.
One
of the online reviews that I saw said something very similar. He's like, these guys just cut to the story. And he said something very similar. He's like, the other podcasts, half the episode won't have anything to do with what they're talking about. These guys, they get in there, they jump into the story, they tell it, and there's not a lot of fluff. There's not a lot of, hey, this is what I did over the weekend. Hey, this, whatever. And I know sometimes we get off on a tangent, and not everybody likes that. But it's
usually somewhat story related.
Well, we usually kind of try to tie it in, and usually it's sort of towards the end of the episode. So, again, once we start talking. But yeah, like a lot, that's some feedback that I've seen before. Like, you guys get in, you tell the story, you don't have a lot of extra stuff. We don't have 10 minutes worth of advertisements. We're not trying to pitch something else.
You guys don't talk about your dogs laying on the back of a couch of a blanket or Halloween outfits that we put on them and, stuff like that.
We would never.
No, that's not us. That's not us. Well, we do hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Amish and Mennonite Old Dutch, Pennsylvania Paranormal. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. Thanks for the kind words. And we are happy to be back. Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Hey, real quick, call to action. I think Eric would agree. We'd like to grow this. Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Absolutely.
If you could, if you're listening on Apple, if you would go and give us a review and rate us. If you have some feedback, that's fine too. Whatever platform you're listening, follow us, rate us, give us some reviews. That helps get some recognition and gets our name out there.
We do have a Facebook page, Nightmares on the Lost Highway. You can easily find us if you want to communicate with us. If you want to share some possibilities for future podcasts with us, reach out. We want to talk with you guys.
I want to take a time to thank the people that helped bring this all together. Alex Tudor, you can almost call him our producer at this point. Sarah Tudor, who also helps with some of the technical stuff. I want to take a moment to extend thanks to Eric for letting us use his space to record in, kind of our makeshift studio.
I, in turn, would like to thank Bill for, one, putting up with me and using this camaraderie to do something we both very much love and enjoy doing, and thank Bill's family for allowing him to spend all the time to work and clean up our recordings and present them in what you hear in the final terms, the final edition, if you will.
And I'd like to thank all of you for continuing to listen. I know we've got some loyal followers out there. We do this as a labor of love, but we're happy that there are people that enjoy it hopefully as much as we do.
Thank you very much.